Hello everyone, good morning to all. This is CA Sachin Jain from Jodhpur, and today we are going to start our second session on the detailed GST live course. So, first confirm me once that my voice is audible and the PDF file is visible to you so that we can start the proceeding of the session. Yes, sir, my voice is audible and the PDF file is visible. Just confirm me in the chat box that everything is okay. Just confirm. Okay, so we are going to start the session. So before starting the session, I just want to recap our last session. Okay, in our last session, we had discussed about the general concept of GST, the deficiencies of pre-GST regime, the various mechanism of goods and services tax, that is benefits of GST, one nation, one market के बारे में हम लोगों ने बात की थी. We had discussed about the investment boost up. Also, we had discussed about the framework of GST, our dual concept, dual framework of GST. After that, we had started our discussion on the constitutional background of GST, article number 246A, inserted. Okay, for implementing the GST, in which the parliament has the concurrent power to make the laws. Okay, parliament and the state government, central government has the concurrent power to make the laws. Then after we had started our discussion on the GST council, the power of GST council, the voting rights, 66.67 percentage and 33.33 percentage. After that, we had started our discussion on the basic term of supply. Section 7 of CGST Act, supply includes sale, exchange, barter, transfer, license, lease, rental. After that, we had started our discussion on the schedule number 1 of CGST Act, schedule number 2 of CGST Act, schedule number 3 of CGST Act. Schedule number 1 talks about that all those transactions or activities which is mentioned in schedule number 1, whether there is a consideration or no consideration, the same should be considered as your supply. Second, schedule number 2 will define the particular activity or transaction is to be considered as your value of supply or value of goods, that is supply of goods or supply of services. And schedule number 3 talks about all the activities or transaction which is neither treated as goods nor treated as supply. After that, we had started our discussion on the composite and mixed supply, section number 8. Okay, आपको याद आया होगा section number 8, composite and mixed supply. Composite supply naturally bundled, one is principal, another is ancillary. Rate of tax will be applicable as per principal supply. In case of mixed supply, they are not naturally bundled, and highest rate of tax will be applicable in case of mixed supply. And after that, we had started our discussion on the charging section, section number 9 of CGST Act. In that, we had discussed about the applicability of GST on all type of intrastate supply, except the alcoholic liquor and the 5 petroleum products. Okay, on per GST will be applicable on a future date as recommended by the GST council. And after that, we had discussed about section number 9 subsection 3, that is specified list of goods and services on which reverse charge mechanism of provision will be applicable. Now we are going to our discussion on reverse charge mechanism in a detailed way. So the mode of communication will be in English and Hindi both, but we are going to use maximum time the English language. Okay, and if sometime I am going to use the Hindi language, I am going to use Hindi language for certain examples, or if for any example, in that case you all are free. If you have any problem with Hindi, you can raise in the chat box that sir, please repeat this concept in English. I will repeat the same in English. Okay, and if someone is not getting the meaning of English language for a particular term, in that case you can repeat in the chat, you can comment in the chat box that repeat this concept in Hindi. So this course is for Hindi and English both. Don't take any tension, any bother. Okay. If you have any doubt regarding Hindi language, if you have any point regarding Hindi language, you can comment in the chat box. I will repeat the same in English language. Although the complete law part, the complete discussion part, the complete analysis part will be in English language, we are going to use certain terms in Hindi. And if you will say, I will repeat the same in English language. Okay. So with that, we are going to start our today's session. And if you have any question, if you have any doubt during the session, you may comment in the chat box. There is no issue with that. If you have any practical issue, if you have any practical problem, you can discuss with me in the WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group is there specifically for your doubts, for your queries, for your problems. You can comment in that WhatsApp group. So now, section number 9, subsection 3 says, all the activities or transactions. That means under section number 9 subsection 3 there is a specific list for goods and a specific list for services. All those goods or services which is covered under section number 9 subsection 3 will be liable to reverse charge mechanism. Section number 9 subsection 4 currently not in effective. That was effective till 30th October 2017. Now currently no relevance of this section. Okay, so we are not going to discuss on that. Although the basic term of section number 9 subsection 3 we had already discussed in our previous section, in our last session. Now the question is that whether special economic zone is liable to reverse charge mechanism. So first question is that what do you mean by that special economic zone? So special economic zone, special economic unit is a specific unit defined by the government for the economical activities, for the business activities. On the basis of the transaction, on the basis of the quantum of the transactions, government is going to decide certain specific place as a special economic zone or special economic developer. So in case of SEZ unit or SEZ developer, in case of SEZ unit or SEZ developer, there is certain specific provisions. Suppose this place is SEZ and someone is going to sell certain product from domestic market, that is non-SEZ area. If someone is going to make supply from domestic market to SEZ unit, in that case there is a specific provision under GST that whenever there will be a supply from the domestic market to SEZ developer, the same should be treated as zero rated supply, because this area is a special area. So all the supply which is to the special economic zone is to be treated as zero rated supply. That means zero rate of GST should be charged in that case. Now question is that when I am going to make certain supply to SEZ unit, in that case whether RCM is applicable or not. So when the regular supply is under zero rate 0%, that means SEZ is not liable to make payment of any taxes. In that case the RCM supply will be zero rated. There is no GST on that. In case of SEZ, all supply are zero rated supply, hence supplier is not liable to pay the tax. And in this case of RCM, supplier liability shifted to the recipient, so there is no liability in case of reverse charge mechanism, because when supplier is not liable to make the payment of tax, because supplier is going to make the payment of tax at the rate of 0%. And in case of reverse charge mechanism, we are saying that supplier is going to transfer the liability to pay the taxes on the recipient. So in that case SEZ is recipient. So when supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes, SEZ is also not liable to make the payment of taxes. So conclusively we can say that RCM related provision will not be applicable in case of special economic zone. Whenever a supplier is going to make the supply to, of special economic make the supply to the special economic zone, in that case reverse charge mechanism related provisions will not be applicable in that case. Okay, so one more request from my side, sir. After completing each and every topic, I am not going to ask that this concept is okay or not. This is your responsibility. If you have any doubt, if you have any problem, if you have any question, you may comment in the chat box that, sir, please repeat this concept, or we have this particular issue with this concept. Okay. And second option is that you just need to comment, okay, this concept is clear. So it is a motivation for me that Whatever I am deliberating, this is clear in your mind also. Okay. Now, there are certain journal provisions are there. So we need to discuss on that. So these provisions, if this session is joined by certain by GST officers, so GST officers also has to the GST officer also has to analyze certain things. Okay, कि SEZ के ऊपर RCM नहीं लग रहा है when you are going to audit for the special economic zone. In that case, you need to take care of these concepts in your mind. Okay, and also if possible make the notes of it so that it will be very much useful at the time of your practical scrutiny, practical audit and practical cases. Okay, and all the participants who has registered for this course, we had already dispatched the study material. Okay, those who had registered late, so most probably they will receive the study material within 1 to 2 days. Okay, not more than that. So now we have our another concept, certain journal provisions regarding reverse charge mechanism. RCM supply does not included in the aggregate turnover. That means when we are going to calculate the aggregate turnover for defining any liability on a particular person, in that case the RCM related supply will not be included in the aggregate turnover. Suppose I am going to sell sales is there, exempted supplies also there. Okay, sale is for 5 CR rupees, exempted supplies for 3 CR rupees, and I had made certain payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism for 1 CR rupees. When you are going to calculate the aggregate turnover of that particular entity, in that case you just need to take care of this 8 crore rupees. We are not going to take this 1 crore rupees because this is under reverse charge mechanism. RCM tax does not included in the output tax. Suppose when you are going to check the GST return of any particular entity, or when you are going to file the GST return of a particular entity, in that case, we are checking that the term is different. Why? I am saying that there is term is different. Output tax is showing in another tab, another column, and RCM related liability is showing under another tab. That means your RCM related liability will not be included in your output tax. Separate provision apply in case of time of supply. In our today's session, we are also going to discuss on section number 12, 13 and 14 regarding time of supply. So there are separate provisions applicable in case of forward charge and for reverse charge mechanism on account of your time of supply. If any one liable for reverse charge mechanism, then in that case, limit is not applicable. Suppose I need to take the GST number when my turnover got exceeded by the specified limit, that is 20 lakh rupees, 40 lakh rupees, or whatever will be the limit as per the states. So if I am liable, I am falling under the list which is mentioned under section number 9 and subsection 3. In that case, I need to take the registration, whatever will be the amount of my GST turnover. There is no effect of GST turnover. Now, mechanism of payment of taxes. So in that case, what is the mechanism which is applicable in case of payment of taxes in case of reverse charge mechanism? So in case of reverse charge mechanism, first I need to pay the taxes with cash, and then after I can claim the same for input tax credit. Okay, suppose I am going to declare my reverse charge mechanism liability for 1 lakh rupees, and I am going to make the payment of CGST and SGST, suppose at the rate of 18%, that is 9,000 under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, under RCM, first I need to pay this amount in cash only from my cash ledger, cannot be from credit ledger, and after that I need to claim the input tax credit. I need to claim the same amount input tax credit in my books of accounts. That means in case of reverse charge mechanism, I need to pay the amount in cash, and then after I need to claim the same as input tax credit. Now, procedure for reverse charge mechanism. So, what is the procedure in case of reverse charge mechanism as a departmental authority when we are going for the audit, or as a taxpayer when we are going to filing our return? So, under reverse charge mechanism, this concept is also known as self invoicing system. Self-invoicing system. This mechanism is also known as self-invoicing system. That means when I am going to declare any liability under reverse charge mechanism, in that case I need to generate the invoice. Okay, and when I am going to generate my invoice with my name, that is self-invoicing, I am paying my output tax and also the invoice is with my name, so I am eligible to claim the input tax credit. That is what is the complete mechanism of reverse charge mechanism. Because you may ask the question that why there is requirement to pay the output tax and then claim the input tax credit. So the logic is that I am doing the self invoicing, that is I am doing the invoicing with my name itself. So in that case, first I am going to pay the output tax and hence the invoice is with my name. So I am eligible to claim the input tax credit. That is what is the logic. Now, one important point is there. We are going to discuss that practical point also. Under reverse charge mechanism, I need to pay CGST, I need to pay SGST, or I need to pay IGST, whatever will be the payable in case of reverse charge mechanism. I need to pay the CGST, SGST, or IGST. Suppose in case of transportation, the transporter is from Gujarat and I am is in Rajasthan. In that case, transporter is supplying me the services from Gujarat and I am is in Rajasthan. That means this supply is called as your interstate supply. Okay, so you are saying that IGST should be charged. Yes, this is also in a view that in that particular transaction, IGST should be charged. But in my view, in case of reverse charge mechanism, I am doing the self invoicing. That means I am generating the invoices and I am claiming the input tax credit. That means the place of supply will be the place of my principal place of business. That means I am in Rajasthan. I am generating the invoice and I am claiming the input tax credit. In that case, whatever will be the registered place of that transporter in case of reverse charge mechanism, CGST or SGST should be charged because my principal place of business is in Rajasthan and I am generating the invoice from Rajasthan and claiming the input tax credit is in Rajasthan itself. So CGST and SGST should be charged. That is what is the my opinion. Okay, but currently some people are charging IGST in case of interstate supply and CGST, SGST in case of intra-state supply. But under RCM, this is my view that CGST and SGST should be charged because this is under the self-invoicing mechanism. Now, we are going to discuss the list as per section 9, subsection 3. We had already discussed that in section 9 subsection 3 there is comprehensive list is available and according to that list we need to charge reverse charge mechanism, that is on these supply of these particular goods reverse charge mechanism will be applicable, on supply of these particular services reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. We need to apply this concept. So just confirm me once that the basic concept of reverse charge mechanism, the calculation of turnover in case of reverse charge mechanism, and the applicability of CGST, SGST, and IGST is okay for you. You are getting the concept. Just confirm me once so that I can take the next point. Although I am taking the next point, but you just need to confirm me in the chat box that this concept is okay for you. Now, supply of goods were GST payable under the reverse charge mechanism. So there are 7 goods specified by the government. If someone is going to make the supply of these 7 goods, in that case, supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Now, first point, cashew nuts. If a supplier is going to supply the cashew nuts, in that case, that supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. What is the logic of this? So, in maximum cases, the supplier of cashew nuts will be agriculturalist. So, the government wants that agriculturalists should be out of the ambit of GST. Hence, they made this list, they made this provision that in case of supply of cashew nuts, agricultural is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Recipient, that means who is going to dealing or trading or manufacturing or certain activities doing on that particular cashew nuts, that will be the recipient, and recipient will be registered under GST. So in that case, recipient will be liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. So the first product is cashew nuts. In case of supply of cashew nuts, recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Supplier is not going to make the payment of taxes. Second goods, BD wrapper, leaves, tobacco leaves. In all type of supplier, the supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Again, BD wrapper, tobacco leaves, all these are supplied by the agriculturalist. So this is the intention of governments. Hence, in that case, recipient is has to make the payment of taxes. Silk yarn, silk yarn manufactured by manufacturer. So in that case, the silk yarn is to be supplied by the supplier to the recipient. In that case, supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Lottery. Lottery is supplied by state government, central government, union territory, local authority. In that case, government is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The recipient, that is registered person who is going to buy that particular lottery, is liable to make the payment of taxes. Now, raw cotton. Raw cotton, supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Again, the same logic. In case of raw cotton, the supplier was our agriculturalist. So in that case, recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. If central government, state government, union territory is going to sell the used vehicles, the seized vehicles, the confiscated vehicles, and used and old goods and waste and scrap, in that case, the person who is buying those goods is liable to make the payment of taxes. But the condition is that the supply is to be made by the central government, state government, local authority, union territory. So that is what is the concept. In case of priority sector lending certificate, who is going to issue the priority sector lending certificates? That is the main branch. Suppose RBI is going to issue the priority sector lending certificates, and priority sector lending certificate is bought by certain other branch. Suppose PNB, SBI, ICICI Bank, they are going to buy the priority sector lending certificates. In that case, registered person, that is supplier, is not going to liable for making the payment of taxes. The recipient who is going to buy those priority sector lending certificate is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. So these are seven products, seven goods on which reverse charge will be applicable. That means in case of cashew nuts, recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. In case of BD wrapper, tobacco leaves, recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. In case of silk yarn, lottery by state government, union government, local authority, raw cotton, used vehicles, seized vehicles, confiscated vehicles supplied by the central government, state government, local authority, or priority sector lending certificates. In these types of supply, recipient will be liable to make the payment of taxes. Vijayji, regarding the entries in tally for reverse charge mechanism, we have in a separate session in this 5 days or 5 weeks live course regarding the practical return filing. I am going to discuss on that in that particular session. Okay. So most probably our next week will be on the practical return filing. So we'll discuss the complete return filing concept in that, and with that we are going to discuss on various entries also, and we are also going to discuss certain accounting concepts. So this is the comprehensive list on which reverse charge mechanism is applicable in case of goods. Now there is a specific list on account of services where the GST payable under reverse charge mechanism. So now we are going to discuss about the complete list of services on which reverse charge mechanism is applicable. So First service, goods transport agency. That means suppose I am a businessman, I am a businessman. In that case, if I need to take the services of transporter for transporting the goods, in that case the transporter is not liable to make the payment of taxes. I am recipient of services. I am the recipient of services of that particular transporter. In that case, I am liable to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 5% under reverse charge mechanism. When you are going to check as a departmental authority, when you are going for the audit, and when you are going to check the GSTR 2B of that particular business entity, in that case you may found certain entities entries from the transporter. Okay, input tax credit regarding transporter, but transporter has but the recipient has not claimed that input tax credit, because the provision is that when transporter is going to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 5%, in that case recipient is also has to make the payment of taxes under 5%. Okay, and when transporter is going to make the payment of taxes under 12%, in that case recipient is not liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. That is what is the concept. Okay, so basically the basic concept, conclusively the basic concept is that when I am going to take the services from transporter, whatever will be the amount of the bill T, there is no limit of 750 and 1500. Whenever I am going to take the services of the transporter, in that case on that transportation charges, recipient has to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism at the rate of 5%. But if the transporter is going to declare the same, okay, under annexure before the particular financial year, in that case if the transporter is going to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 12%, in that case recipient is not liable to make the payment of taxes. So I am going to discuss the same with the help of chart so that the concept will be more clear. Goods travel agent. One concept is that when recipient has to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 5% under reverse charge mechanism. When supplier, that is transporter, is going to declare that I am going to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 12%, in that case recipient is not liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. That is what is the whole story in case of goods travel agent. Okay, but if supplier is going to make the payment of taxes, in that case first declaration is required, annexure has to be filed in that specific case on GSTN portal in the beginning of the financial year, so that the declaration has to be submitted to the departmental authority and the person can opt for that. Okay, so when we are going for the audit and when we are going to check the GSTR 9 and 9C, in that case we need to identify these things, that the particular declaration is filed, and if there is no declaration is filed, in that case recipient is going to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 5%. Now next, legal services provided by directly, indirectly by an advocate, including a senior advocate and forms of advocates. That means when an advocate is going to provide their services related to advocacy. This is the very important term. Suppose I am an advocate and I am going to provide the written filing services. In that case, RCM provision will not be applicable. If advocate is going to provide the advocacy services regarding the legal matters, in that case RCM is applicable. Suppose I am an advocate and I am providing the legal and advocacy services to my clients. In that case, my client is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism, because this supply is covered under the mechanism of reverse charge mechanism. Okay, next, services provided by an arbitral tribunal to a business entity. Suppose there is any dispute in business, there is any dispute in the business, in that case that business is going for the fruitful decision to the arbitral tribunal. In that case, arbitral tribunal is going to supply their services to that business entity. In that case, as a arbitral tribunal, supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. That business entity who is going to take the services of that arbitral tribunal is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. That is what is the concept. So first three services we had covered. First one is our goods travel agent. Another one is our legal services provided by the advocate. That is the advocacy and legal services provided by the advocate. And third one is services provided by the arbitral tribunal to the business entity. Next, sponsorship services provided to any body, corporate or partnership firm. If someone is going to provide the sponsorship services to any business entity, in that case the provider of those sponsorship services is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The recipient, that is the business entity, the body corporate, the partnership firm who is going to receive that sponsorship services is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism at the rate of 18%. We'll try to discuss certain practical transactions also, although I am going to share the examples, okay, but I will share the particular financial statement with all these transactions so that it will be more clear in your mind when we are going to discuss the practical parts. Now, any services supplied by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority, when in these cases the business entity who is going to receive those services will be liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. You need to memorize this concept with that government is not going to make any type of government is not going to liable to make payment of any type of taxes. In that case, government is going to shift the same to the recipient. Hence, all the supplies of services by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority, in that case recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. But there are certain exceptional lists when government is going to provide the renting of immobile property. In that case, reverse charge mechanism is not applicable as per this clause. But if you are going to read the clause number 5a, in that case, renting of immobile property by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority to a person registered under GST, in that case that recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Okay, so what is the difference between that? When central government, state government, local authority is going to transfer the right to use that immobile property as a renting to an unregistered person, in that case reverse charge mechanism is not applicable, but the same is provided to the registered person. In that case, the provisions of reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. Also, the Indian Post Services, Department of Post by Speed Post, Express Partial Post, Life Insurance Agency services provided by the central government, state government, union territory. In that case, these services are also not covered under the mechanism of reverse charge mechanism. And services in relation to aircraft, vessel, inside or outside the port or airport, and transportation of goods or passenger, this is also not covered under the reverse charge mechanism by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority. That means except all those services, all other services provided by the central government, state government, union territory, local authority will be covered under the mechanism of reverse charge mechanism. That means in that case recipient has to make the payment of taxes. Sir, I am repeating these concepts again and again for your conceptual clarity so that you can memorize the things and logic shall also be clear in your mind. Now, TDR, transfer of development rights for construction of a project by any person to any promoter. Suppose if a person wants to incorporate a business entity or a company, in that case, that person should be called as your promoter. If someone is going to transfer the development rights to that promoter regarding any project, construction of a project, in that case on transfer of those development rights, promoter is liable to make the payment of taxes. That transferor is not liable to make the payment of taxes. This is the very specific and general term. That is when promoter wants to construct a project, and if anyone going to transfer the development rights to that promoter, in that case also the reverse charge mechanism is applicable and promoter has to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. Now, long term lease, that is 30 year or more. if someone is going to provide any building, any land on lease to promoter, in that case promoter is liable to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 18%. Recipient is not going to make the payment of taxes. Two specific situations are there. To construct a project, if someone is going to transfer the development right to the promoter, RCM is applicable. If someone is going to provide any land or building on lease to promoter for long term, that is 30 years or more, in that case that recipient, that is promoter, is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. Services supplied by a director of a company to the body corporate or company, in that case recipient, that is company or body corporate, is liable to make the payment of taxes. Director is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Suppose Mr. X is the director of Batuk Consultancy and Networking Private Limited, and if that director is going to make any supply of services to company, in that case that director is not required to pay any taxes. Batuk Consultancy is going to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. So when we are going to check the financial of any company and we are going to do the audit of any company, or when we are filing the GSTR 9 and 9C of any company, in that case we need to check these things carefully, that if there is any services provided by the director to the company, in that case company has paid the taxes under reverse charge mechanism or not, we need to confirm the same. Services by an insurance agent to any person carrying on insurance business. Insurance company is going to appoint multiple insurance agents. Okay, whatever will be the insurance company, whether it is a LIC or Max Life Insurance Policy or SDFC, whatever will be the name, they are going to appoint multiple agents. And if that agent is going to make the supply of services to that insurance company, in that case, that agent is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The insurance company who is going to take the services of that insurance agent is liable to make the payment of taxes. Bank is going to provide multiple loans, and for recovery of those loans bank is going to appoint certain vasuli bhai, recovery agents. Okay, and if the recovery agent is going to provide the services of recovery of the amount to the bank, in that case that recovery agent is not liable to make the payment of taxes. That bank is liable to make the payment of taxes. So you need to memorize these things. You need to memorize these activities or transactions in case of your client. In case during your audit, if you found any of these things, then you should know that this is to be covered under reverse charge or this is to be covered under forward charge. And there are just 14 services and 7 goods. Okay, that means conclusively total 21 items are there on which RCM is applicable. On all other items, reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. So we need to memorize accordingly and we need to apply the same during our audit and during filing of returns, GSTR 9 and 9C and all. Next, copyright services provided by a music composer, photographer, artist, like relating to original, dramatic, musical and artistic works to a music company producer. If any music composer, photographer and artist is going to provide the services to the music company, to the producer, कई सारे actors हैं, they are going to prepare the films for music company and for directors and producers. In that case they are going to supply the services to that music company, to that producer, to that business entity, to that film producing entity. In that case those music composer, those photographer, those artists are not liable to make the payment of taxes under forward charge. The recipient, that is the music company, is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. That is what is the cause. Next, if someone is going to write certain books, okay, simplified GST guide, and they are going to transfer that right, that means they are going to transfer the right to publish those books to the publisher. In that case the supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes. The publisher who is going to publish the books of that particular author is liable to make the payment of taxes. Suppose I had already written 4 books, okay, and अगर मैं उस 4 books का जो है राइट टैक्समैन को देता हूं या फिर भारत पब्लिकेशंस को देता हूं, आई एम गोइंग टू ट्रांसफरिंग द राइट टू पब्लिश दोस बुक्स टू भारत पब्लिकेशंस एंड टैक्समैन. In that case I am a supplier of service and Bharat Publication and the taxman is the a recipient of service. In that case, that recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. I am a supplier of those services is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Now, supplier of services by the members of overseeing committee to the to the Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India has also formed one committee, and that committee is going to take various services and various suggestions from the committee members. In that case, if that committee member is going to make supply of services to that reverse to the Reserve Bank of India, in that case that member is not liable to make the payment of taxes as a supplier. In that case, that RBI is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. Banks are going to appoint multiple DSA agents. Okay, and DSA agents are getting the business on behalf of the particular bank, and bank is going to pay certain commission, certain percentage of commission to those DSAs. In that case, DSA is going to make the services of supply to the particular bank. In that case, DSA is not liable to make the payment of taxes as a supplier. In that case, recipient as a bank is going to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. This service is also specified in the list. Okay, now there are certain business correspondents, business facilitators are also appointed by the banking industry. In that case, those business correspondents, those business facilitators are providing their services to the banking industry or banking company. In that case, that business facilitator or the service provider is not liable to make the payment of taxes. That banking company is liable to make the payment of taxes. Services provided by an agent like business correspondent is going to provide the services, and in that case also that business correspondent is not liable to make the payment of taxes. That business entity is liable to make the payment of taxes. Next, security services by way of supply of security personnel. Suppose I am a agent and I have one company for providing the security services. I am providing the security personals. Okay. And Batuk Consultancy required certain security personals. In that case, Consultancy is going to connect with me for providing the security personals. And in that case, I am going to supply the security personal services to that Batuk Consultancy. In that case, I am as a supplier is not liable to make the payment of taxes, but to consultancy as a recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. That is what is the specific provision which will be applicable in case of security personals. When we are going to check the financial statement of a particular entity, and if there is certain expenditure booked with the name of security expenses, or when we are going to check the vouchers or check the ledgers of that particular entity, and we found one specific ledger named AGL Security Services. Okay, AGL is just an example. That means that business entity has taken certain services from the security personnel. In that case, we need to check that the reverse charge mechanism has already paid by that particular business entity or not. That is what is our responsibility while filing the GSTR 9 and 9C, while doing the business audit, while doing the scrutiny of returns. So these are the 14 services specified under section number 9 subsection 3 in case of reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. Now, one more service is there regarding the lending of priority sector lending certificates. In that case, lender is not liable to make the payment of taxes. Borrower is liable to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 18%. The same list is specified under IGST also for interstate supply. Okay, this list specifically section 9 subsection 3 deals with your CGST, SGST, that is intrastate supply. The same list is there in case of IGST Act and all those type of supply. If you are going to make under interstate supply, in that case reverse charge mechanism is applicable, but two more services are there regarding interstate supply. So first service, services supplied by a person located in non-taxable territory by way of transportation of goods by vessel from a place outside India to the custom station of clearance in India. That means if someone is going to make the supply from outside India to India, in that case, that supply is to be treated as import of service, and on account of import, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. That means if Sachin Jain required certain services from Germany, and if Sachin Jain is going to take those services from Germany. In that case, I am Sachin Jain is uh, registered himself as an importer. Okay, and in that case, Sachin Jain is acting as an importer. So Sachin Jain has to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism as an importer. Next service. Any service supplied by any person located in the non-taxable territory to any person other than non-taxable online recipient. Okay. We are going to discuss this concept also in detail at the time of our discussion on the section number 14 of IGST Act. Okay. So, अभी इस concept को छोड़ दो. When any non-taxable, when any person who is situated in non-taxable territory, that means outside the India, is going to make any supply to the taxable territory, in that case we can say that the same should be treated as your import and RCM will be applicable on those particular type of supply. So conclusively we can say, in case of import of service, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. So basically we had discussed the 7 list of goods. Okay, the 7 list of goods, and the goods is cashew nut, silk, yarn के ऊपर GST applicable है. सेकेंड हैंड गुड्स के ऊपर RCM provisions applicable है. BD wrappers, raw cotton, used vehicles, purchase of priority lending certificates, on all those types of goods reverse charge mechanism is applicable. That means recipient is liable to make the payment of taxes. Also we had discussed about certain list of services, your advocacy services, your GTA services, business correspondent services, related to DSA services, related to insurance agent, related to music composer, related to author. All these services are also covered under the reverse charge mechanism, and import is also covered under reverse charge mechanism. In case of import, importer is liable to make the payment of taxes. I just want one confirmation from your side that the complete list regarding goods, regarding services, and regarding the IGST Act, that is the import, is clear in your mind or not. I just want reply from each and everyone. I am waiting for your reply. Just confirm me once in the chat box that the complete concept is okay for you. For import of service, IGST should be charged. In case of import, there is a specific provision. In that case, IGST should be charged. In case of domestic interstate, we need to charge CGST, SGST, IGST. But in case of import, IGST should be charged. So now we are saying that there are two type of supplies are there. One is interstate and another is intrastate. One is interstate and another is intrastate. So we are going to discuss on that interstate and intrastate supply. But before starting that discussion on that intrastate supply and intrastate supply, I have an urgent work, so I need to take break for 10 minutes. So we'll start the session again at 9 a.m. sharp. So be with me, stay connected. We'll start the session sharp at 9 a.m. Okay. So just this is in a 10 minutes break. Then after we are going to continue the session for 2 hours, that is 11 a.m. till 11 a.m. So this is just a break for 10 minutes. हेलो एवरीवन। सॉरी 5 मिनट ब्रेक जो है अपना एक्सटेंड हो गया, सॉरी फॉर डिले। सो माय वॉइस इज ऑडिबल। सो माय वॉइस इज ऑडिबल। यस, एवरीथिंग इज ओके फ्रॉम माय साइड। सो बेसिकली अंडर जीएसटी we have two type of tax chargeability. One is under intrastate and another is under intrastate. So I know very well that the basic concept regarding the intrastate and intrastate is already okay for all of you, but I am going to discuss the same in detail so that our basic concept got clear, so that we can start our discussion on the certain advanced concept. And when we are going to touch the written filing, when we are going to touch the certain analytical parts, when we are going to start our discussion on certain case studies, when we are going to start our discussion on certain drafting techniques, these all things are very much relevant, very much helpful for us. Okay, so what do you mean by that interstate supply? Whenever there is a supply between two states, suppose I am in Rajasthan and I am going to make the supply in Gujarat. In that case, the supply between two states, that supply is to be called as your interstate supply. Okay, when the supply is between two state, when the supply is between two union territory, that is also called as your interstate supply. Okay, so the first thing is that when the supply is between two state and two union territory. Also, when I am going to make my supply to any SEZ unit or SEZ developer, the basic term of SEZ unit or SEZ developer we had already covered. So the term special economic zone unit ko when I am going to make the supply, in that case that supply is also treated as interstate supply and IGST should be charged, but the GST rate will be 0% in that case of special economic zone. Suppose I am in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, and the special economic zone is also situated in Rajasthan. In that case, that supply should be called intra-state supply. But as per the specific provision, when the SEZ unit is also in the same state, but the same supply is to be considered as interstate supply and IGST should be charged, but the rate will be 0%. So whenever there is a SEZ unit or developer को supply होता है, that will also be treated as your interstate supply. Next one, whenever there is a export, when I am going to make the supply outside India, the custom territory of India, I am going to cross that custom territory of India. In that case, that supply is also treated as interstate supply and IGST should be charged. Up now, this is completely depend on me that I am going to make that export with payment of tax or without payment of tax under bond or LUT. Okay, we are going to discuss the concept of export in detail as well. So these four type of supply is to be considered as your interstate supply. Now, second question arises, what do you mean by that intrastate supply? Now, one more point is there. Whenever I am going to make the supply to the tourist, suppose one person is coming to Rajasthan and he is going to take my services in Rajasthan, but the GST number is from Uttar Pradesh. In that case, that supply is to be treated as interstate supply, not as intrastate supply. Whenever I am going to make the supply to any tourist, that supply is to be considered as your interstate supply, not as your intrastate supply. Now, what do you mean by that intrastate supply? When the supply is between the states, suppose I am in Rajasthan and I am going to make the supplies in Rajasthan itself, in that case, that supply is to be treated as intrastate supply. Okay, within state. So only one thing is covered under the definition of intrastate supply. Two exceptions are there. Special economic zone is in Rajasthan, but the same is to be treated as interstate supply, and also tourist is going to take the services in Rajasthan, but the same is to be treated as interstate supply. So now we are going to discuss the same from the language of law. Now, section number 7, subsection 1 of IGST Act, subject to the provision of section number 10, supply of goods. where the location of supplier and the place of supply are in two different states, two different union territories, one state and one union territory. In that case, that supply is to be treated as interstate supply. Maximum time, this may be possible that I need to pay the CGST or SGST. By mistake, I had paid the IGST due to the decision regarding the intrastate supply and interstate supply. So while auditing, while filing the GST and 99C return, while checking the accounts, while doing the business audit, or while doing the scrutiny of returns, we need to be very much carefully examine the situation that the taxpayer has paid that CGST, SGST and IGST according to the provision of interstate supply and intrastate supply. We are whose area where multiple revenue leakages, multiple mistakes are possible. So we need to check those things so that compliance part got regularize. Section number 7, subsection 2, supply of goods imported into Indian territory till they cross the custom frontier of India shall be treated as supply of goods in the course of intrastate supply. इसीलिए हमने बोला when we are going to import certain things, in that case IGST should be charged under reverse charge mechanism, because this is completely clearly mentioned in section number 7 subsection 2 of IGST Act. Hence, we are not going to take that concept in this case regarding CGST, SGST, IGST under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, because specific section is there that in case of import of services or import of goods, IGST should be charged under reverse charge mechanism. Section number 7, subsection 3 says, subject to the provision of section 12, supply of services. So, section number 7, subsection 1 talks about supply of goods. Section number 7, subsection 3 talks about supply of services, when the location of supplier and the place of supply is in two different states, two different union territory, one state, one union territory. In that case, that supply is to be treated as interstate supply and IGST should be charged accordingly. Now, section number 7, subsection 4, supply of services imported into India. In that case, also the same is treated as your interstate supply. So, section number 7, subsection 2 talks about the import of goods. Section number 7, subsection 4 talks about import of services, but the conclusive provisions are same. Now, section number 7, subsection 5, supply of goods or services both, where the supplier is located in India and place of supply is outside India. In that case, also IGST should be charged and that supply is to be treated as interstate supply. We had already discussed this concept through our this chart. Okay, through our this chart we had already discussed. I am just trying to explain you the language of law so that it will be more clear in your mind. To or by a special economic zone developer, special economic zone developer unit. In that case, also the same is to be treated as your intrastate supply. In the taxable territory, not being an intrastate supply not covered elsewhere in this section, shall be treated to be supply of goods or services or both in the course of interstate trade or commerce. That will also be treated as your intrastate supply. Now, section number 8 of IGST Act talks about the intra-state supply. So, subject to the provision of section 10, supply of goods, where the location of supplier and the place of supply of goods are in the same state and same union territory, will be treated as your intra-state supply. But the following supplies shall not be treated as intra-state supply. First is special economic zone, special economic zone unit. Whether the unit is in same state or not, the same should be treated as your intra-state supply. Second one is supply made to a tourist will not be treated as your intra-state supply. Goods imported into the territory of India till they cross the custom frontiers will also not be treated as your intra-state supply. That will also be treated as your intra-state supply. So, इससे भी हम लोग ये समझते हैं कि वाई इन केस ऑफ इंपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज सीजीएसटी एसजीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, बिकॉज सेक्शन 7 तो बोल ही रही है, सेक्शन 7 इज आल्सो सेइंग दैट द सेम इज टू बी कवर्ड अंडर IGST Act, that is interstate supply, and section 8 is also clearly mentions that in case of import of services or goods, the same should not be considered as your intrastate supply. That means the same is to be considered as your interstate supply and IGST should be charged. That is what is the concept. So these are the three exceptions available. One is SEZ unit, second is import, and third is supply made to tourist. Okay. Just confirm me once that my speed is okay. There is no issue with speed, or I need to reduce my speed. I need to slow down my speed. Just comment me in the chat box. Although I suppose that the speed is okay. But if anyone wants that we need to reduce the speed, then I am also okay. Just confirm me once that my speed is okay for you or not. Section number 8, subsection 2 says, subject to the provision of section number 12, supply of services where the location of supplier and place of supply of services are in the same state and same union territory shall be treated as intra-state supply. Okay. So, in case of interstate supply, whenever the supply between two state, two union territory, one state, one union territory, in that case, that supply is to be treated as interstate supply. Special economic zone, interstate supply. Import of goods, interstate supply. Export of goods, interstate supply. Whenever I am going to make the supply to the tourist, that will also be covered under interstate supply. And in case of intrastate supply, whenever I am going to make the supply between the state, that means in the state, in that case, that supply is to be treated as intrastate supply. Now, section number 9 of IGST Act, supply in territorial waters. Supply in the territorial waters. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act where the location of supplier is in the territorial water, the location of such supplier. When I am going to make a particular supply and I am going to make the supply to the territorial water, in that case, the location of such supplier will be treated as the place of supply. Now, where the place of supply is in territorial water. The place of supply shall for the purpose of this act be deemed to be the coastal state or union territory where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located. That means when the supplier is in territorial water, in that case, location of such supplier we are going to take. Suppose if we are going to take the supply, we are going to make the supply in the sea, and that will be called as your territorial water. In that case, the location of supplier will be treated as place of supply. But if we are not going to decide from that, in that case, there is another point that whatever will be the nearest coastal area of that sea, that will be treated as your place of supply. That is what is the specific situation regarding territorial waters. We are going to take the specific practical example for this concept also. Section number 10 of IGST Act talks about place of supply of goods other than the supply of goods imported or exported from India. That means place of supply in case of domestic supplies. We are not going to discuss on the import and export. We are going to discuss regarding the concept of domestic supply. In that case, what will be the place of supply? So, section number 10, subsection 1 says, whenever there is a movement of goods, suppose I am going to make my supply from Rajasthan to Maharashtra. In that case, there is a movement of goods, my goods moved from Rajasthan to Maharashtra. In that case, the place of supply will be the place where the movement terminates. That means जहां पर मैं उस गुड्स की डिलीवरी टर्मिनेट करूंगा, दैट इज महाराष्ट्र विल बी ट्रीटेड एज माय place of supply. Okay, so this is specific case. In that case, whenever there is a movement, in that case where the delivery terminates, that place will be treated as my place of supply. Second, suppose this concept, jo example I am going to take that particular example regarding build to ship to model. Suppose I am is in Rajasthan and I am the supplier, and I am going to make the supply to Gujarat, Mr. Rakesh. And Rakesh is saying that Sachin, you need to prepare the bill with my name, that is Gujarat, but you need to supply that particular product, supply that particular goods to Maharashtra, Mr. Yadav. In that case, I am going to prepare the invoice with the name of Mr. Rakesh Gujarat, and I am going to make the supply to Maharashtra, Mr. Yadav. In that case, I am going to billing to the Gujarat and shipping to the Maharashtra. In that case, my invoice should be, my place of supply should be Gujarat, जहां का मेरा bill है, and my place of shipping will be Maharashtra. That is what is the concept of bill to ship to model. Now, just make certain changes in this specific example. Suppose I am is in Rajasthan and I am going to prepare the bill. That is, Mr. Rakesh is going to buy the goods from me, but he is not from Gujarat, he is also from Rajasthan. And I need to make the supply to the Maharashtra. In that case, also that supply is to be treated as intra-state supply, not as interstate supply, because I am just going to shipping that particular products to Maharashtra. I am billing Rajasthan itself, so that supply is to be treated as intra-state supply, and the place of supply will be Rajasthan. That is what is the concept under bill to ship to model. So the first concept was related to our movement of goods, where delivery terminates. Second point, bill to ship to model. Third, where there will be no movement. In that case, whatever will be the location. Suppose I have sent certain goods to Mr. X और मैंने उसको बोला you just need to check this goods. I am going to sell you that goods on the basis of sent or approval basis. If you will approve, then I am going to make the invoice, and if you are not going to approve, in that case I am going. You should get back that particular goods to me. In that case, suppose after checking that particular product, Mr. X is going to approve that particular products. In that case, at the time of invoicing, or when I am going to report the same in my GSTR1 return, at that time there will be no movement. So in this situation, the location, the place of supply will be the location at the time of delivery. That means when I am going to prepare the invoice, when I am going to report the same in my GSTR return, at that time, what is the location of the particular goods, that will be treated as place of supply. So completely there are three situations. One is whenever there is movement of goods where the delivery terminates. Bill to ship to model, billing address will be place of supply. Third one, where there is no movement of goods at that time, at the time of delivery, whatever will be the location of that particular goods will be treated as place of supply. So, and where I need to assemble the goods, I need to install that particular goods. In that case, the place of installation of that goods will be treated as place of supply. Suppose I am a manufacturer of certain automobile parts, okay, and I am going to prepare one automatic automobile machinery from those automobile parts to the place of the client. In that case, when I am going to the place of that clients and I am going to assemble that particular machinery at that place, in that case, that assembly place will be treated as my place of supply. And if the place is outside Rajasthan, in that case, I need to charge IGST. And if the place is in Rajasthan, in that case, I need to charge CGST or SGST. Now, where the goods are supplied on board a conveyance, including a vessel or aircraft or train or motor vehicle, the place of supply shall be the location at which such goods are taken on board. जहां पर वो board पे taken किए गए, that place will be treated as the place of supply. So these 5 points are there whenever there is a moment where the delivery terminates. Second, where bill to ship to model, so billing address will be place of supply. Third one, no movement. In that case, at the time of delivery, whatever will be the location of that particular goods will be treated as my place of supply. In case of installation or assembling, the place where the installation or assembling is done by that particular person, that place will be treated as my place of supply. And fifth one, when I am going to supply on board or convenience vessel, aircraft, train, in that case, the place where the goods are taken on board, that will be treated as my place of supply. That is what is the complete concept of section number 10 of IGST Act regarding place of supply. And if you are not going to decide the place of supply from this, then we have certain rules, and we are going to discuss on those rules at the time of our complete discussion on place of supply. I just want to clear the basic concept of place of supply through this section number 10 of IGST Act. So just confirm me once that the place of supply is completely okay. IGST, CGST, SGST, interstate supply, intra-state supply is completely okay for you. This time I am expecting reply from each and everyone, because this is a very important part of law. This is a very crucial part of law regarding place of supply, regarding interstate, regarding intrastate. So just confirm me once that the thing is okay for you, so that we can start our discussion on the next important topic. Everyone, please actively participate. You all are here to gain the complete knowledge of GST. Now, next concept. I am going to register myself under GST. I have two options available. Government is also going to distribute the people. Government is also going to bifurcate the people in two terms. One is, yes, I am going to slow down my speed. If you have any issue regarding intrastate supply, place of supply, then you may comment. I may repeat that concept, and I am going to slow down my speed. There is no issue with that. So government also has two type of mechanism. Government is saying certain peoples are poor people, certain peoples are rich people, and certain peoples are medium. So our GST has two mechanism for registration. I am not going to discuss about the mechanism for paying the taxes, because for paying the taxes there is two mechanism. One is forward charge, another is reverse charge. But in case of GST for registration, there is two mechanism available. First one is my regular scheme, and another one is my composition scheme. When my turnover got exceeded by a specified limit, that is 20 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, 40 lakh rupees, depend on the state and depend on the activities. In that case, I need to take the GST registration. Okay. Now, when I am liable to take the registration, at that time, I have certain options that I am going for the regular scheme, I am going for the composition scheme. If my turnover is up to 1.5 CR rupees, if my turnover is up to 1.5 CR rupees and certain 8 states are there, in that case, this limit is 75 lakh rupees. Now, your question is that, sir, GST is a centralized act, one nation, one tax. Why there is difference between the limit of 1.5 CR and certain special states for 75 lakhs? So, at the time of our discussion on article number 246A, we had already discussed that central government and state government has the concurrent power to make the laws regarding GST. So, center ने अपना एक ड्राफ्ट तैयार कर दिया, दैट इज CGST एक्ट. नाउ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हैज द पावर टू मॉडिफाई द लॉ अकॉर्डिंग टू द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ स्टेट्स. Okay, so there is one more act is there, that is SGST Act. Total four acts are there: CGST Act, SGST Act, IGST Act, and UTGST Act. The main act is our CGST Act, and उसके ही कुछ parts copy किए हुए हैं SGST Act में. IGST Act will be applicable in case of interstate supply only. Certain specific interstate related provisions are there. Okay, so now for that purpose, in case of composition scheme, if my turnover is up to 1.5 CR rupees, in that case, I may select the composition scheme. So now, what is the difference between regular scheme and composition scheme? In case of regular scheme, I need to pay the taxes at a certain percentage, suppose 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. Okay. So there are certain rate. 0.10% is also available. Jewelry के case में there is also a specific GST rate is also applicable. But I am going to discuss on the certain specific term: 5, 12, 18, and 28%. In that case, I need to make the payment of taxes in this rate on my all type of outward supply. whenever we are going to check the financial statement of our client at the time of audit, at the time of GSTR 9 and 9C, multiple times when we are going to check the financial statement, if there is an income on account of rent, on account of any other services, on account of commission, and that particular firm is proprietorship firm and proprietor has already taken the GST registration, in that case we need to check that GST is already paid on that rent, on that commission or not. Because this is the mandatory that if once I had taken the GST registration, in that case I need to make the payment of taxes on my each and every type of income. Okay, except salary, there is no GST on salary, but on all type of my income, I need to pay the GST. So we need to check the same from scrutiny audit from GST and 99C perspective. So now, under regular scheme, there is certain specific rates are available, and I need to make the payment of taxes with these rates. And also, I am eligible to claim the input tax credit. What do you mean by that input tax credit? When I am going to make the supply, in that case, for making those particular supply, I need to take certain inputs, I need to bought certain products for manufacturing process. And if I am a trader, in that case, for trading purpose, I need to bought that particular product from someone else. In that case, when I am going to buy those products, there are certain input tax credit is also available. So under regular scheme, I need to pay the tax on outward supply at a specified rate, that is 5, 12, 18, and 28. And also I am eligible to take the input tax credit on my buying. That means when I am going to make the payment of taxes to the government on my outward supply, in that case I may adjust the input tax credit which is available in my electronic credit ledger. Okay. So in case of composition scheme, I need to make the payment of taxes at a certain percentage of rate. Okay. What is the certain percentage of rate? In case of goods, 1%. In case of restaurant services, 5%. In case of other services, 6%. Okay. I need to make the payment of taxes at a concessional rate, that is 1%, 5%, and 6%. And in case of composition scheme, I am not eligible to claim any type of input tax credit. Suppose I am a trader and I am going to trade. In that case, I am going to make the supply under composition scheme. In that case, I need to charge GST 1%. But when I bought certain goods and if there was certain input tax credit on those goods, in that case, if I am going to opt for the composition scheme, in that case, I am not eligible to claim the input tax credit which is available on my buying. I just need to pay the taxes at a concessional rate. That is what is the 1%, 5% in case of restaurant services, and in case of other services, rate is 6%. But एक झोल है, in case of services, if I am going to make the supply of completely services, in that case my turnover up to 50 lakh rupees, I can opt for the composition scheme. If my turnover got exceeded by 50 lakh rupees, in that case I will not be eligible to pay the taxes under composition scheme. So the limit of 1.5 CR and 75 lakh rupees is specifically applicable in case of goods, but in case of services, the limit is 50 lakh rupees. If my turnover got exceeded with that 50 lakh rupees, in that case, I need to go for the regular scheme. I cannot with the composition scheme. That is what is the complete concept of composition scheme. Also, if I am going to register myself under regular scheme, if I am going to register myself under regular scheme, in that case, I need to file my GSTR 1 return, GSTR 3B return, annually GSTR 9 return, 9C return based on my turnover. Also, I can go for QRMP scheme, quarterly return filing, monthly payment. If my turnover is below 5 CR rupees, in that case, I may select that scheme and I may file the GSTR 3B on quarterly basis and GSTR 1 on quarterly basis, but I need to save my GSTR1 on monthly basis under IFF facility, that is invoice furnishing facility. We are going to discuss on all these practical concepts in detail in our next week. There is no issue with that. But you just need to keep these things also in your mind. But in case of composition scheme, I just need to make the payment of taxes on quarterly basis. Suppose in a particular quarter I had made the supply of 5 lakh rupees. In that case, if I am a goods trader, I need to pay the taxes of 1% of that 5 lakh rupees. Okay, 5,000 rupees I need to pay the taxes quarterly basis under form ZMP08. And also I need to file one annual return, that is GSTR4, and in that return I need to submit my annual summary till 30th April of the next year. Okay, so that is what is the complete concept of composition scheme. Now we are going to read the same from the language of law. But before proceeding, if my turnover, suppose I am going to register under composition scheme as on 1st April 2022. During the year 30th September को, if my turnover got exceeded with the specified limit of that composition scheme, that is 75 rupees, 75 lakh rupees, 1.5 cr rupees, or in case of services 50 lakh rupees, in that case from the liability I need to take the registration under composition scheme within 7 days. That means I need to intimate the fact to the governmental authority through the GST and common portal within 7 days that I am not now I am not liable, I am not eligible for composition scheme. I am going to opt for the regular scheme. That is what is the mechanism for opting the same. Okay, so let's start our discussion from the language of law. Sir, basic concept regarding the composition scheme from our example is okay for each and everyone? Just comment me in the chat box so that we can start our discussion on the language of law, section number 10 of CGST Act regarding composition levy. Just confirm me once in the chat box. Now, composition levy. The composition levy is an alternative method of levy of tax designated for small taxpayers whose turnover is up to the prescribed limit. The objective of composition scheme is to bring the simplicity and reduce the compliances cost for the small taxpayer. That is what is the motive of government for introducing that composition scheme. Initially, the scheme was designed to benefit the small trader, manufacturer, restaurant service provider. So the scheme was fundamentally for the supply of goods and only for the restaurant services providers. However, subsequently, suppliers availing composition scheme were permitted to supply with other services also through a specified value. Now, under this scheme, supplier of goods have to option to tax at the rate of concessional rate 1% and 5% in case of restaurant services if the turnover is up to 1.5 crore rupees. Restaurant other services the case में the limit is 50 lakh rupees and you can pay the taxes at the rate of 6% CGST SGST. Okay. Now, Section number 10, subsection 1 of CGST Act provides the turnover limit of 50 lakh in the preceding financial year for becoming eligible for composition levy of goods. However, provision to section 10(1) empowers the government to increase the threshold limit from 50 lakh to up to 1.5 crore rupees, but there are certain specific category of states. Okay. Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, and Tripura. In these states, the limit is 75 lakh rupees only. If the turnover got exceeded by 75 lakh rupees, in that case, those taxpayers who are registered under these states, in that case, they need to take the registration and they need to convert the registration under composition to regular. In case of special category of states, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu Kashmir, the turnover limit will be 1.5 crore only. I am just going to discuss the Brief concept from language of law, because we had already covered the complete concept of composition levy with our example. Now, sir, ये 50 lakh rupees, 1.5 CR rupees and the 75 lakh rupees we need to calculate for per GSTN or for per PAN number. So under the complete GST no, we just need to kept in our mind that in that case the definition of aggregate turnover, the definition of aggregate turnover is always on the basis of the permanent account number. If you have 2 to 3 GST number, in that case, the aggregate turnover is to be calculated from PAN number. Okay. Because in case you have 2 to 3 GSTN under same PAN, in that case you need to add the complete turnover of all these 3 GSTN to a one PAN, and you need to decide your aggregate turnover, and accordingly you need to decide the eligibility for the composition scheme. And also, if your turnover got exceeded, in that case, for all the GSTN, you are not eligible for the composition scheme. That means if you are going to ineligible for one GSTN, in that case, you will be ineligible for all other GSTN. Okay, if you are going to select for one GSTN as a regular scheme and you are going to select for other two GSTN as a composition scheme, in that case this is not possible. If you are going to take the registration for one GSTN as a composition, you need to take the balance for composition. If you are going to take the registration for one GSTN as a regular, in that case you need to take the registration as a regular for balance 2 GSTN. That is what is the concept. Okay. Now, turnover limit in case of composition levy, 50 lakh rupees in preceding financial year becoming eligible for composition levy in case of services, and 1.5 CR rupees in case of goods, but 75 lakh rupees special category states. Now, for calculating the aggregate turnover, this definition is uniform. Whenever under GST law you need to calculate the aggregate turnover, this specific definition is usable, and this definition is very much important while audit, while filing GSTR 9 and 9C, while doing the scrutiny, while doing the business audit, at any type of litigation. This definition plays a very important role. कई बार हम लोग क्या करते हैं, we are not going to give more time to the definition. So this is also important that we need to take reference of the various definitions, because this is also very much relevant for us. So the aggregate turnover is the sum of value of all outward supply falling in the following four categories. You need to take the taxable supply, exempt supply, export of goods and services, and interstate supply for calculating your aggregate turnover. But you are not going to add your reverse charge mechanism related supply and taxes. You are not going to add. Okay, GST law se related taxes you are not going to add, and RCM is not going to add while defining the aggregate turnover. And aggregate turnover is to be calculated, computed on all India basis, having same permanent account number. Okay. Now, what will be the rate of tax in case of composition levy? So manufacturers other than manufacturer of notified goods, that is ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, in that case 0.50 at under each head of CGST and SGST, that is 1% GST will be applicable. Any other supplier eligible for composition scheme under section 10, in that case also the rate of tax will be 0.5% under CGST and 0.5% under SGST. So conclusively, the 1% tax will be applicable in case of composition supply, supply of goods, and in case of supply of services, rate will be 6%, but the turnover limit is 50 lakh. Composition supply of services 3% under each head of CGST and SGST, that means 6% rate will be applicable in case of composition scheme supply of services. Now, a person engaged in marginal supply of services other than restaurant services also eligible for composition scheme? समझा नहीं. Suppose I am a good supplier. I am a good supplier. My complete turnover is from goods, but I am also going to provide a certain amount of services. In that case, I am eligible for the composition scheme or not? That is what is the question. So Suppose I am a supplier of goods for 50 lakh rupees, and 5 lakh rupees I am also going to supply of services. In that case, whether I am eligible for composition scheme or not, that is what is the question. And for replying that question, we have specific second proviso to section number 10 subsection 1. Read with section number 10 to a, that is, fundamentally the composition scheme for goods can be availed in respect of goods and only one service, namely restaurant services. However, there are cases where a manufacturer or trader is also engaged in supply of services other than restaurant services, through the percentage of such supply of services very small as compared to the supply of the goods. There may also be cases where a restaurant services provider is also engaged in supplying a small percentage of other services. In that case, with the view to enable such taxpayer to avail the benefit of composition scheme for goods, second proviso to section 10 subsection 1 permits marginal supply of service other than restaurant services for a specified value along with the supply of goods and restaurant, as may be the specified value cannot be exceeded 10% of the turnover in the state, union territory, or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher. That means जो मैं अपनी गुड्स सप्लाई कर रहा हूं, I am going to supply the goods in that specific case if I am going to make the supply of services for a certain percentage of amount, that is 10% of the turnover of my goods, or that is 10% of my total turnover for the preceding financial year, or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher, उस amount तक का I am eligible to make the supply of services in case of composition scheme. That is what is the concept. So just take one example, that if I am going to make the supply of goods up to 50 lakh rupees in the preceding financial year, in that case I can make the supply of services maximum value of 5 lakh rupees and I can take the benefit of composition scheme. Okay, so now intimation of composition scheme, I need to intimate to the government within 7 days. Okay, अगर मैं पहले से ही I am registered for composition scheme and I am going to convert myself into regular scheme, in that case I need to intimate the same to the government. And if I am going to take the registration under composition scheme, in that case when I am going to take the registration, at that time I need to select that I am going to take the registration under composition levy. So वैलिडिटी ऑफ कॉम्पोजिशन लेवी, मेरी कॉम्पोजिशन लेवी कब तक वैलिड रहने वाली है? until and unless my turnover got exceeded by the specified limit, that is 40 lakh rupees in case of services, 75 lakh rupees for special 8 category states, and 1.5 crore rupees for other states in case of goods and restaurant services, I am eligible for composition scheme. Or if I want to change my scheme, that is I want to convert my scheme from composition scheme to regular scheme, then this is completely based on me, I can change the same accordingly. So when my turnover got exceeded by the specified limit, in that case my composition scheme got withdrawn and I need to intimate the same within 7 days to the government through the GSTN portal that sir, my eligibility has got lapsed, so I am going to register myself as a regular person. Now, withdrawal from the composition scheme by a taxpayer who intends to withdraw from the said scheme, the registered person who intends to withdraw from the composition scheme shall, the date of such withdrawal and application is to be filed. When I am going to select the regular scheme on my own basis, in that case I need to intimate the same to the governmental authority through the GSTN portal. कौन सा फॉर्म फाइल करना है, how we are going to file, we are going to discuss the same in our practical filing portion. Now you just need to take the things in your concept that this is the way, this is the mechanism for composition levy, so that at the time of audit GSTR 99C, this will be very much helpful if you are going to do the audit of any specific composition levy and your client is under the composition scheme. Now assessing authority, tax authority has the power to deny from that composition scheme. When I am going to apply for the composition scheme and at the time of checking the things, tax authority को लगता है, tax authority found that I am not eligible to opt that particular scheme due to my turnover, due to the product, due to the service category, due to the state, due to the default in the calculation of the aggregate turnover. In that case, they may issue the so-cause notice, that is SCN, to me, that you are not eligible for that composition scheme, and I need to file my reply for that case. If the tax authority is going to satisfy with the reply of a particular taxpayer, in that case they can approve the registration, approve the scheme, that is composition scheme. And if they are not going to satisfy, in that case they have the authority, they can issue the order that you are not eligible for that composition scheme, you need to take the registration as a regular person. Now, composition scheme to be adopted uniformly for all the PAN number, for the all the GST number which is under same PAN number. We had already discussed composition scheme supplier cannot collect tax, that means you just need to charge 1% GST, that means you need to pay the taxes from your pocket. Okay, because you are going to you are not going to issue the tax invoice, composition person is going to issue the bill of supply. Okay, this is also a difference. In case or regular person is going to issue the tax invoice, but composition registered person is going to issue the bill of supply. Composition scheme supplier cannot enter into credit chain because they are not going to claim the input tax credit on their buying. So that is what is the basic mechanism of your composition scheme. So basic concept we had already discussed. From the provisions of law we had already discussed. If anyone has any doubt, if anyone has any question, if anyone has any point regarding that composition scheme, you all are free to raise your questions in the chat box. And if that composition scheme, the concept of reverse charge mechanism, that is section 9 subsection 3, the list of goods and the list of services, and the concept of interstate supply and intrastate supply, and the basic terms of place of supply, that is section number 10 of IGST Act, is okay for you. In that case, just comment me in the chat box so that we can start our next topic, that is time of supply. We are not going to discuss on the exemptions in our today's topic. We are just going to discuss on the list of exemptions in our next session or in our next week. Okay, because ये थोड़ा सा heavy हो जाएगा. So we are going to discuss first the complete provisions, the complete law of GST. Then after we are going to discuss that exemptions part, practical return filing and litigations and certain case studies and also certain notifications and also the drafting techniques. So we are going to discuss each and everything step by step. So just confirm me once that this is okay for you so that we can start our discussion on the time of supply. I am expecting reply from each and everyone so that I got that idea that the complete concept is okay for you. Okay, so now when we had started our session, that is in our last session, we had discussed about the basic concept of GST and the activities or transaction which should be treated as your supply. That means GST should be charged on that. After that, we had started our discussion on the mixed and composite supply and the reverse charge mechanism and the concept of our interstate supply, intra-state supply, and also we had covered our discussion on certain important parameters, that is composition scheme, regular scheme we had discussed. Now sir, ये decide हो गया, we had already decided that the particular activity or particular transaction is to be treated as supply. Now we need to charge the GST. Okay, now we need to charge the GST. So what will be the value on which I need to charge the GST? So for valuation part we are going to discuss in our tomorrow's session. But now the concept is that I need to charge the GST. In that case, what is the timeline? What is the timeline in which I need to charge the GST? That is what is the question. Suppose I had made my supply in July. I am a supplier and I am going to make a supply of a particular product in July. In that case, when I need to make the payment to the government? What is the timeline in which I need to make the payment? Yes, place of supply topic is remains. We are going to discuss on place of supply after our time of supply, after our value of supply. Then we are going to take the topic time of supply so that it will be more easy for us to understand the things. Okay, because these are completely linked. So first we are going to discuss on the supply. Then we had discussed about reverse charge mechanism. Then we had started our discussion on our interest rate supply composition levy. Then we are going to discuss on time of supply. Then we have value of supply, and then after we are going to discuss on the place of supply, concept of place of supply, and then the concept of input tax credit, then refund under GST, then audit and assessment under GST, then demand and recovery under GST. All these topics are linked accordingly, so we are going to discuss one by one. So time of supply. Now, the question arises when I need to make the payment of taxes. Suppose I make that particular supply in July month. In that case, what is the timeline till which I need to file the return and I need to report that particular supply, and which month GSTR 1 return or GSTR 3B return is to be completely decided from the time of supply. Many times we are just going to check that this is a particular supply, this is the value of supply, and the client is eligible for input tax credit or not. We are going to discuss on rule number 42, 43, that is reversal, 17.5. All those things we are going to discuss. But we are not going to check that the assessee has filed the return on timely basis or not, or the assessee has reported that particular transaction on time or not. Because if the taxpayer is not going to report the same, in that case heavy interest penalty is there, heavy interest provisions are there, because the taxpayer has to make the payment of taxes at the rate of 18% on the delay in reporting. I am not talking from return filing perspective. I am talking that the particular supply on the basis of the transaction. Suppose on the basis of that particular transaction, that transaction is to be reported in July month. But the taxpayer is going to report the same in August or September month. And if we are not going to check the provisions related to time of supply, in that case, there is chances of deficiency regarding the time of supply. There is chances that the revenue linkage point regarding time of supply वो हम लोग check करना भूल जाए at the time of GSTR 99C, at the time of annual return, at the time of audit and assessment. So we need to take care of these things. Now we are going to start our discussion on the place of time of supply. So basically, I need to decide the time of supply. I need to decide the time of supply in case of goods or in case of services. In case of goods, in case of services, I need to decide the time of supply. Suppose I am going to make the supply of goods. In that case, we need to decide what will be the time of supply in that specific case. And suppose I am going to supply the advisory services, consultancy services, legal advocacy services. In that case, also we need to decide what will be the time of supply in case of supply of my services. Now, I may supply my goods under forward charge, and I may supply my goods under reverse charge. I may provide my services under forward charge. I may supply my services under reverse charge. So conclusively, there are two situations. One is supply of goods, another is supply of services. In that case, I may supply the goods under reverse charge or under forward charge under services, in that case of services, under forward charge or under reverse charge. So time of supply in case of goods will completely deal by Section 12 of CGST Act, and time of supply in case of supply of services will completely deal by section number 13. So that is what is the scenario, that section number 12 of CGST Act will be applicable in case of supply of goods, and section number 13 will be applicable in case of supply of services. Now we need to decide for two different situations, under forward charge, under reverse charge, under forward charge, under reverse charge. So one by one, first, we are going to discuss with the help of certain examples, and after that, we are going to read the same from the language of law, so that all the part will be clear in your mind, and your mind will be crystal clear regarding deciding the time of supply in each and every situation. So, if possible, take one paper or notebook and pen and write the same, so that it will be more useful for you. Now, section number 12 will be applicable in case of supply of goods. Section number 12, supply of will be applicable in case of supply of goods, and if I am going to make the supply of goods under forward charge, in that case, what will be the time of supply? So my date of issue of invoice will be treated as my time of supply. That means in case of forward charge, when I am going to make the supply of the goods, when I am going to issue the invoice, that will be my time of supply. If the invoice date is 20th June 2023, in that case, I need to report the same while filing my GSTR1 of July month, and also I need to report the same in my GSTR3B return of July month and pay the taxes accordingly. That means in case of supply of goods under forward charge, the time of supply will be the date of issue of invoices, because we all know in case of supply of goods, there is no GST on advance. Suppose I am going to sell that particular pen, that will be treated as supply of goods. Mr. X require 1000 unit of pen. Mr. X मेरे पास में आया. Mr. X has come to me and said that sir, I want that 1000 pen. In that case, this is a token amount, that is 15,000 rupees. I am going to give you that 15,000 rupees. You just need to ready that bunch of those pens. I will take it in the next week. Then I got 15,000 as advance on account of supply of goods, but there is no GST on account of supply of advances on account of supply of goods. Hence, in case of forward charge, in case of supply of goods, the time of supply will be date of issue of invoice will be the time of supply. Now, if I am talking from supply of goods in case of reverse charge, now, in case of reverse charge, what will be the time of supply? So, for deciding the receipt of goods, reverse charge, first know the concept. In case of reverse charge, recipient is going to make the payment of taxes. So, we need to decide the time of supply from recipient point of view, because in that case, recipient is going to make the payment of taxes. So, in case of reverse charge, when the receipt of goods, the date of receipt of goods, date of receipt of goods or payment, that is bank entry or entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier, and 30 days from the invoice, whichever is earlier will be my time of supply. Suppose in case of reverse charge mechanism, the receipt of goods, suppose I got received the goods on 20th जुलाई 2023, दैट इज माय रिसिप्ट ऑफ गुड्स। ओके, इस दिन मैंने मेरे गुड्स रिसीव कर लिए एंड आई हैड मेड द पेमेंट ऑन 25th ऑफ जुलाई। I had made the payment on 25th of July, and the same I had entered in my books of accounts in 27th of July. So in दोनों में से whichever is earlier, that means my 25th of July, and suppose the date of issue of invoice was 18th July. So the 30th day from that day, so the day will be 28th August 2023. इन तीनों में से whichever is earlier will be my time of supply, that is 20th July 2023 will be my time of supply, and I need to report the same while filing my GSTR 1 and 3B of July month. This situation is okay, this practical example is okay. If you have any doubt, you may say that repeat this concept, so I may take the another example, and if this concept is okay, then you may write in the chat box that this concept is okay. So two concepts we had covered. First, in case of supply of goods, in case of forward charge, the date of issue of invoice will be the time of supply. In case of reverse charge mechanism, the date of receipt of goods or the payment or the books of entry in the books of accounts, or 30th day from the issue of invoice, whichever is earlier will be treated as the time of supply, and in that particular month, the same is to be reported in the GSTR 1 and 3B return. Okay, now section number 13 of CGST Act will be applicable in case of supply of services. So, in case of supply of services, first, if I am talking from forward charge mechanism, suppose I am going to make the supply of services, I am going to provide the consultancy services. In that case, I am a supplier of services, or I am going to take this session. For that purpose, we had charged one amount from you, okay, and also GST is charged on that particular amount. In that case, but to consultancy is going to make the supply of services under forward charge mechanism. In that case, what will be the time of supply? In that case, time of supply will be date of issue of invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. दोनों में से whichever is earlier will be the time of supply. Suppose you had made your registration for this course, that is for this course which is started in the August month, and you had made the registration in the July month. In that case, you had already paid the advance amount in the July month. Also, we had issued the invoice to you. There is no issue with that. But in that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, that means the date of payment. That means in case of services, there is GST on account of advances also. आपने बोला, you all have come and said that, sir, we require one specific session for GST audit and assessment. Okay, so that मैंने आपको बोला, I am going to charge 1 lakh rupees in advance. You just need to pay me that 1 lakh rupees in advance, and we are going to schedule that session after 3 months, and I am going to issue the invoice at that time. That means on account of services, I had received that 3 lakh rupees. In that case, I need to pay the taxes to the government on account of invoices, because in case of supply of services under forward charge, the time of supply will be invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, and in that case, I had already received the payment as advance. In that case, GST is to be paid and time of supply will be the date of payment. Okay, so in case of forward charge, specifically for services, the time of supply will be invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. But in case of goods under forward charge, the time of supply will be the date of invoice only, because advance GST will not be applicable on the advances on account of the supply of goods. So that is what is the concept, that is what is the logic. हम लोग जो भी डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, each and everything we are going to discuss, that will be completely based on the logics. Okay, so this will help you a lot to analyze the things, to memorize the things. Okay, now supply of services under reverse charge mechanism. In that case, what will be the time of supply? So in that case, payment or entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier, and 60 days from the issue of invoice, whichever is earlier will be treated as my time of supply. Suppose I am going to provide my consultancy services, advocacy services. I am an advocate and I am going to provide my legal services. That means in that case, RCM is applicable. That means recipient of service is liable to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism. Suppose Sachin Jain is going to make the payment of is going to supply the services of advocacy to Ram Industries. Okay. I am going to make the supply of services. In that case, the Ram Industry is going to make the payment of Sachin Jain as on 20th July for 5 lakh rupees for the advocacy services. Okay. Or 60th day from the issue of invoice. In that case, the date of invoice was suppose 1st of August, because I had already received the advance amount for that and Ram Industry has paid advance amount. In that case, 1st August is the invoice date. So in that case, 60 day from that 1st August. So 30th September will be whichever is earlier. That means 20th July. So 20th July will be the place of supply, that is time of supply, and Ram Industry has to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism in the return of July month. Okay, which is going to file in the August month, that is 20th of August. So that is what is the concept of reverse charge mechanism. This concept is also okay. We had discussed about forward charge, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. In case of reverse charge mechanism, the date of payment or entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier, or 60 days from the date of issue of the invoice, whichever is earlier will be the time of supply in case of reverse charge mechanism. So total 4 situations we had already covered. If anyone has any doubt, any point regarding these 4 services, then you are free to raise the question in the chat box. And now, suppose I am going to Reliance Small. When I am buying certain products, Reliance Mall is going to give me certain vouchers. That sir, you had bought certain amount of goods from our store. That is 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. So we are just going to issue one voucher to you. They are going to issue one voucher to me, and they are saying that sir, ये जो voucher हमने आपको दिया है ना, you can redeem that particular voucher at the time of your next visit to our store. When you are going to buy certain things next time from our store, at that time we are going to provide a certain gift to you or certain discount to you. Okay, so Reliance has given me that particular voucher. Suppose at the time of giving that particular voucher, Reliance has told me that Sachin, when you will come next time for buying certain things, at that time we are going to give you one discount of 500 rupees. First situation is that. Second situation, Reliance ne bola, Sachin, when you will come next time to our store, at that time we will give you certain gift to you. From that voucher, you just need to present that particular voucher. We are going to give you certain gifts. उन्होंने disclose नहीं किया. In that case, when we are getting certain vouchers, in that case, what will be the time of supply for those vouchers? If the vouchers are identifiable at the time of issue of that voucher, in that case, date of issue of that voucher will be treated as your time of supply. And if that voucher is not identifiable, certain gifts, you are getting certain gift on your next purchase, at that time the date of redemption will be time of supply. So that Reliance Mall has to book the accounting as per these 2 rules. Okay, they are going to issue the voucher. If the voucher is identifiable, date of voucher will be the time of supply. They need to file the return and they need to put the same in that particular month return. But if the voucher is not identifiable, in that case, the date of redemption of that particular voucher is to be treated as your time of supply. So this is a specific situation. Mintra is also going to issue certain vouchers. Amazon, Flipkart, they are also going to issue certain vouchers. Paytm is also going to certain vouchers. So the basic concept, the principal concept, this is the concept which is applicable in case of vouchers when we are going to work of these particular type of industries, or when we are going to handling the audits of these particular clients. In that case, we need to be very much careful regarding the vouchers part also, that the time of supply is decided accordingly to the rules, to the norms or not. So you can find out a huge amount of revenue leakage, and also there is chances you can rectify the errors of your client while your GSTR 9 and NC, and during the year itself you are, if you are handling the work of these industries. So that is what is the concept of this. So this is the concept of voucher. Now next concept, we are first going to discuss the same from the examples, then after we are also going to read the language of law and analyze the provision. Okay, now suppose I had made one supply of service, मैंने मेरी कोई consultancy service दी, I am going to make the supply of my consultancy services to Mr. X. I am going to make the supply of services to Mr. X. Okay, and X को मैंने बोला you need to make the payment of taxes, you need to make the payment of my consultancy fees within 1 month, and my consultancy fees is 1 lakh rupees. Suppose Mr. X is not going to make the payment of my consultancy fees within 30 days. In that case, there is a previous provision, there is already a provision that I am going to charge interest at the rate of 12% on that 1 lakh rupees. ओके, मिस्टर एक्स ने 30 डेज के अंदर मुझे वो पेमेंट नहीं किया, एंड invoice date was, and I had already made the payment of taxes as per the invoice date. When I had raised the invoice, I had made the payment to the government on that 1 lakh rupees at the rate of 18%. I had already made the payment of 18,000 tax to the government. Now after 30 days, Mr. X is not going to make the payment to me. After 1 year, Mr. X is coming to me that Sachin Jain, I want to make that payment of that 1 lakh rupees to you. तो मैंने उसको बोला भाई देख, you are getting late, so I am going to charge interest on that at the rate of 12%. So now you need to pay 1 lakh 12,000 rupees to me. In that case, there is a part of interest of 12,000 rupees. In that case, on that 1 lakh rupees, I had already made the payment of taxes to the government, but on the part of interest, that is 12,000 rupees, I had not made any payment to the government, but I am going to recover that amount from Mr. X. In that case, the date of addition, that is after 1 year, when I am going to make that addition to that 1 lakh rupees of that interest amount, that will be treated as the time of supply. And after 1 year, when I am going to charge 12,000 rupees on account of interest, at that time I need to pay, I need to take GST at the rate of 18% on that 12,000 also, and I need to make the payment of that GST to the government at the time of recovering that amount. So whenever there is any addition on account of interest, on account of late fees, in that case, at the time of addition of that interest and late fees, we need to make the payment of taxes to the government accordingly. That is what is the time of supply in case of addition. So complete, अगर मैं बात करूं, if I am talking from complete perspective, in that case we had discussed about supply of goods, section number 12, in case of forward charge, in case of reverse charge. Section 13 is talks about supply of services in case of forward charge, in case of reverse charge, and after that we had started our discussion on the vouchers. If the voucher is identifiable at the time of issue, in that case the date of voucher will be treated as time of supply, and if the voucher is not identifiable, in that case the redemption, date of redemption will be the time of supply. And after that we had started our discussion on the any addition on account of interest and late fees. In that case, the date of interest and date of late fees, the addition will be treated as your time of supply. That is what is the complete concept of time of supply. So now we are going to start our discussion from the language of law. So just confirm me once from in the chat box that the basic concepts from the example from our basic discussion is okay for you. Because when you are going to read the language of law, you found that each and everything we had already covered. So just confirm me once. In case of services under reverse charge mechanism, we had already discussed. In case of services under reverse charge mechanism, the payment or 60 days from the issue of invoices, whichever is earlier, will be the time of supply. In that case, we need not to check the in that case we need not to check the receipt of services. In case of goods, we can identify the receipt of goods from the details, that is the transportability is there, the dispatch slip is there, so we can identify at the time of goods. But in case of services, we are not going to identify. Hence the provision is accordingly that in case of reverse charge mechanism, payment or books whichever is earlier, or 60 days from the issue of invoices, whichever is earlier, will be the time of supply in case of supply of services under reverse charge mechanism. So you need to identify the same from the payment detail or from the invoices detail, the time of supply. Now, we are going to start our discussion from the language of law. Section number 12 is talks about supply of goods, time of supply in case of supply of goods. Section number 12 of CGST Act. Section number 12 is talking about supply of goods under forward charge, supply of goods under reverse charge, vouchers, and addition on account of interest and late fees and certain residual cases. This is pending. We are going to discuss the same from the language of law. So first, time of supply of goods under forward charge. So date of issue of invoice will be the time of supply in case of forward charge. Now, one thing is there, date of receipt of payment by the supplier to the extent of payment covers the supply of goods. So this is not relevant for us. You do not read the same because there is no GST on account of the advances. So the basic provision is that date of issue of invoice will be the time of supply in case of supply of goods. Now, one specific provision is there regarding section number 31 of CGST Act. What is the timeline to issue that particular invoice? अपन ने ये बोला in case of supply of goods, the date of issue of invoice will be treated as your time of supply in case of supply of goods. Now the question is that what will be the time limit for issuance of that invoices? So in case whenever there is a movement of goods, so you need to issue the invoice before or at the time of removal of goods. When we are going to check the invoice date, we need to match the same from the transportability, from the dispatch register. All these things we need to identify that the इनवॉइस इज टू बी इशूड ऑन और बिफोर द रिमूवल ऑफ गुड्स. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि बिना इनवॉइस के ही उन्होंने गुड्स को रिमूव कर दिया हो. दिस प्रोविजन इज एप्लीकेबल इन द केस ऑफ ई वे बिल, और where the e-way bill is not applicable, in that case also this provision is applicable that without invoice the goods cannot be dispatched. In case of continuous supply of goods, in that case on the basis of the monthly invoice or periodical statement hota hai, that will be defined as your time of supply for issue the invoice. Suppose there is certain construction contract is going on and I am a supplier of goods, I am a supplier of cement, and I am supplier of iron sheets and all that. In that case, when I am going to make the continuous supply, in that case जो मेरा continuous statement होगा, that will be treated as the time to issue the invoices. When I am going to issue the statement, suppose I am going to issue the invoices on quarterly basis, I am going to issue that statement on quarterly basis. In that case, the date of quarter on which I am going to issue that statement, that will be treated as my time limit for issuance of the invoice. At that time I need to issue the invoices. In case of regular, before, on or before the removal of the goods, I need to issue the invoices. But whenever there is a continuous supply of goods, in that case the date of statement, whether it is on monthly basis or is on quarterly basis, the date of issue of that statement will be treated as the timeline to issue the invoice. I need to issue the invoice till the date of the continuous statement. When I am going to sell the goods taken on approval for sale or return basis, in that case जब मैं उसको accept कर लूंगा, suppose I had made supply of certain goods to Mr. X on sent on approval basis. मैंने उसको बोला you just need to use that particular product. If you will agree with the quality, in that case I will sell you the product, I will issue the invoice of sale. And if you will not satisfy with the quality of that particular product, you may return the same. After 3 months, if he is going to satisfy with that quality of that particular product, I am going to issue the invoice. That time will be the timeline जब वो accept कर ले. या फिर maximum timeline is 6 month. अगर 6 month expire होने तक, if the taxpayer is not, if the buyer is not going to provide me any answer till the 6 month, in that case the end of 6 month will be the last date to issue the invoice. अगर वो 6 month तक कोई reply नहीं देता है, in that case the same is to be treated that supply and GST should be charged. Now on 1000 rupees, suppose I am a supplier of these pens, okay, and I had made supply of these pens to Mr. X, and at the time of payment Mr. X has made me a payment of 800 rupees extra. I got 800 rupees extra. In that case this is completely optional, that I can pay tax on that 800 this time, or I may adjust that 800 rupees at the time of next buying, and I may pay the tax on that 800 rupees on next time. This scheme is applicable for 1000 rupees. If there is any excess payment of 1000 rupees up to 1000 rupees, in that case this is option that we may pay the taxes on that 1000 rupees in this buy, or we may pay the taxes on next time when we are going to adjust that figure. That will be completely based on us. Now, time of supply of goods, in case reverse charge mechanism, so the date on which the goods are received, date on which the payment is recorded in the books of accounts of recipient, on date on which the same is debited in the bank account, whichever is earlier, or date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice, whichever is earlier, will be treated as the time of supply. We had already discussed the same with example. I am just going to discuss the same with reference of the language of the law. Now, in case of voucher, if the voucher is identifiable, in that case the date of issue of voucher will be treated as the time of supply. And in case of voucher is not identifiable, in that case the date of redemption of that particular voucher will be treated as time of supply. In case of time of supply of goods in residual cases, section number 12 subsection 5, if you are not going to decide, or if you are not able to decide the time of supply from above parameter, in that case this is option in your hand. You can go for the residual scheme, that is section number 12 subsection 5. If the situation is not covered by any of the following provisions discussed above, the time of supply is fixed under subsection 5 of section number 12, that is due date of filing of the periodical return, whether it is on monthly basis or it is on quarterly basis, or date of payment of taxes, whichever is earlier. There is no specific provision regarding whichever is earlier, that is due date of filing of the periodical return or payment of taxes. इन दोनों में से कोई भी ले सकते हैं. Suppose if I am a quarterly return filer, if I am going to make the filing of quarterly return, in that case suppose I had made the supply in the month of July. Now I am going to file my GSTR 3B at the end of the quarter, that is September end होने के बाद I am going to make the payment of taxes. In that case but I need to make the payment of relevant taxes on monthly basis also 35%, and then after I need to adjust to 100% amount at the end of quarter. So this provision is there specifically for quarterly. If you are monthly return filers, in that case, when you are going to file the return, you that will be treated as your time of supply. If you are quarterly return filers, in that case also you need to make the payment of taxes on monthly basis. Okay, so at that time you are going to make the payment of taxes, that will be treated as your time of supply, and you need to make the payment of taxes. यहाँ पर there is each and every provision is linked with each other. Why this line is there that you need to make the payment of GST, that will be your time of supply? Because under QRMP scheme, government is saying that you need to pay the taxes on monthly basis also 35%. So this provision is directly linked with that. When your supplies fall in July month, in that case, you need to pay the taxes in July month itself, and you need to adjust the final figure at the time of filing of your GSTR 3B return. That is what is the complete concept. So each and every provision is linked with each and every other provision. So we need to track the same. So first we had discussed about supply of goods in case of forward charge, reverse charge, voucher, and after that the residual cases, and if there is addition on account of late interest and late fees, in that case the date of addition of that interest and late fees will be treated as the time of supply. Now we are going to discuss the time of supply of services in case of services. Section number 13 of CGST Act is talks about that. In case of forward charge, the date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier, will be treated as the time of supply in case of forward charge, in case of supply of services. Now, what is the timeline to issue the invoice for the supply of services? So, in case of supply of services, tax invoice needs to be issued either before the provision of service or within 30 days from the date of supply of services. Suppose I am going to make supply of services to Mr. X for consultancy services. In that case, from the date of supply of services, suppose I had made the supply of services on 10th of July, within 30 days. From that 10th of July, I need to issue the invoice. This is the time limit to issue the invoice. We had already discussed on account of goods that before removal or at the time of removal, we need to issue the invoice. Same provision is applicable in case of supply of services. We have certain time limit to issue the invoice. So in case of supply of services, the date of supply of services within 30 days, I need to issue the invoice. And in case of banking company, insurance company, financial institution, 30 days की जगह पे there is 45 days instead of 30 days I need to issue the invoice. In case of continuous supply of services, if someone has hired, one industry has hired me that Sachin, you need to provide consultancy services on continuous basis, and I am going to issue the statement of the payment on quarterly basis, that in this particular quarter you had taken 3 times my consultancy, so this is the statement for that, and when I am going to issue that continuous statement, till that date I need to issue the invoice. That is what is the time limit to issue the invoice. So as a departmental authority, as a taxpayer, as a tax consultant, as a chartered accountant, as a GST practitioner, you need to know what is the timeline to issue the invoice in case of goods and in case of services. If your client is not going to issue the invoices on time, in that case you need to refer these provisions and you need to guide to your client that you need to do the same. So that is what is the concept, and we need to be very much careful for that. Time of supply of services in case of voucher. Sorry. First, we need to discuss about reverse charge mechanism. When I am going to provide the advocacy services, in that case, my supplier, my recipient has to make the payment of taxes. So, what is the timeline to make the payment of taxes under reverse charge mechanism for my recipient will be date of payment and 60 days since the issue of invoice, whichever is earlier will be treated as the time of supply. Now, time of supply in case of vouchers. Suppose I am going to make my services to all of you, and I am saying that when you are going the next service at that time, I am going to give you that particular voucher, and on that voucher you will get 25% off. That means you had already identified that voucher at the time of supply of that voucher. That means that will be treated as the time of supply. That means the date of voucher will be treated as time of supply. But in next situation, suppose I am going to give you one voucher and I am saying that on your next buying, you will get a certain amount of discount. I had not disclosed that amount of discount. That means the voucher is not identifiable. In that case, the date of redemption of the voucher will be treated as time of supply. In our 1 to 2 week, we are going to discuss about the provisions of law, and 1 week we are going to completely discuss on the practical aspect and practical applicability of the provisions of law, so that you will got idea that voucher ke case mein how you are going to decide the type of supply. I will come with certain examples, certain data, so that it will be more clear in your mind that how the things are going on. So first we are going to discuss or analyze the provisions of law. Then after we are also going to discuss the practical return filing, the practical exposures, the practical forms which is available on GSTN portal, and also certain practical data. And with that, we are going to discuss on the theory part. So, next, in case of residual cases, the date of periodical return filing or GST payment, or in case of there is addition on account of interest late fees, the date of addition will be treated as the time of supply. So section number 12 and section number 13, we had completed. Section number 12 is applicable in case of supply of goods, and section number 13 is applicable in case of supply of services. And in दोनों में हमने 5 things discuss की. We had discussed about 5 things. One is supply of goods in case of forward charge, in case of reverse charge, vouchers, addition on account of interest and late fees, and residual cases. And the same points we had discussed from services point of view, section number 13. And also we had covered the timeline to issue the invoices in case of goods and in case of services. Is that okay for each and everyone? Just comment me in the chat box. I am waiting for your reply, and I am expecting reply from each and everyone, because this is a very important concept, a very basic concept of GST. So please comment me in the chat box that this concept is okay for each and everyone. Now I'm going to take our next concept and last topic for our today's session. Then after we are going to revise the concept within 5 minutes. Okay, and then after we will start next things on our tomorrow's session. So first, this section is very much relevant. Section number 14, change in rate of tax in respect of supply of goods or services. What is the scenario? First, we are going to discuss, and then after we are going to discuss on the language of law. Suppose on a particular product or on a particular service, the GST rate is 18%. But government has changed the rate on this particular product or on this particular service. Government has changed the rate. Government has told that now the rate is 28%. In this situation, time of supply plays a very important role, because if your time of supply falls under this period, in that case rate of GST will be 18%. And if your time of supply will be fall under this period, that is after change of rate, in that case the rate of GST will be 28%. So you got that idea that the time of supply plays a very crucial role in deciding the rate of supply also, the rate of GST also. Because 18 say 28 or 28 say 18. This is completely based on the concept of time of supply, and there are frequent changes in the rate of taxes on multiple products under GST. So for that purpose, we need to identify the product of that particular client or for that particular entity, and we need to check that if there is any change in rate of tax, then the time of supply provision shall fulfill or not. Because if there is any issue with the time of supply, in that case there is chances of revenue leakage, or there is chances of various litigations. So we need to check the same. So this is the basic concept we are going to discuss. In case of goods or services, both have been supplied before the change in rate of tax. Suppose the rate was 18% and government ने बोला now the rate is 28%, and supplier has supplied the goods or services before the change in rate of tax. That is, at the time of 18%, the supplier has made that particular supply of goods or services. In that case, what will be the time of supply? So, when the invoice or payment which both are after the change, in that case, date of payment whichever is earlier. That means, suppose at the time of GST rate was 18% on that particular product, and at that time I had supplied the goods or services. But the invoice or payment, I had issued the invoice after the change in rate of tax, and I had received the payment after change in rate of tax. In that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. That means in that case, time of supply will be your time at the right at the rate when the rate was 28% and GST should be charged at the rate of 28%. Is that okay? So आप बोलोगे कि गुड्स तो पहले ही सप्लाई हो गया, नाउ द रेट शुड बी 18%, बट वी नीड टू डिसाइड फ्रॉम इनवॉइस और पेमेंट, बिकॉज द इनवॉइस और पेमेंट बोथ आर आफ्टर द चेंज ऑन रेट ऑफ टैक्स. इन दैट केस इनवॉइस और पेमेंट whichever is earlier. That means suppose 18% rate on that particular product was till 20th of July. Government has changed the rate on 25th of July. Okay, I had made the supply on 20th July. Government has changed the rate on 25th of July, and in that case invoice date is 30th July and payment date is 1st August. In that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, that is 30th August, will be my time of supply, and 18% GST will be charged. Sir, please, special care. You should give special care to these type of examples, because this is a very important point. Second scenario, when invoice issued prior to change in rate of tax, but the payment received after the change in rate, in that case, invoice date will be the time of supply. That means, suppose in that case, 20th July I had made the supply, 25th July को rate change हो गई, and the payment date is 28th July, but the invoice date is 23rd July. In that case, the date of invoice, that is 23rd July, will be treated as the time of supply, and GST will be charged at the rate of 18%. That is what is the concept. Next situation, when the payment received prior, but the invoice is after the change of rate, in that case, date of receipt of payment. Suppose in this example, 20th July. 20th July is my supply date. Invoice date is my 29th July, but I had received the payment. I had received the payment on 23rd July. In that case, 23rd July will be treated as my time of supply, and we need to pay the taxes at the rate of 18%. Through that example, you got that idea that due to that change in rate of tax, the time of supply changed, and according to the time of supply, the rate of GST has also changed. Okay, so basically, in case when the goods or services is already supplied before the change in rate of tax, the basic principle is that invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, now We are going to take the next scenario. This scenario is okay for everyone. Just comment me in the chat box. In case goods or services both have been supplied after the change in rate of tax. Suppose 25 जुलाई को यहाँ पर चेंज आया इन रेट. There is change in rate on 25th July and you had made the supply of that particular product on 28th of July. In that case, payment after the change in rate, but the invoice issued before the change in rate, in that case, date of receipt of payment. Suppose 28th July, you are going to supply. In that case, invoice date is your 27th of July, but payment date is your 31st July. In that case, rate of payment will be treated as your time of supply and GST will be charged at the rate of 28%, because we are going to take the time of supply as the date of payment. Now, next scenario. Payment and invoice both prior to change in rate of tax, then time of supply will be I or P, whichever is earlier, that is invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. Suppose in this example, 25th July is the change in rate of tax and you had made the supply on 28th July, but in this specific case, suppose 22 July is the invoice date and 24th July is the payment date, that is invoice or payment both are prior to change in the rate of tax. In that case, invoice or payment whichever is earlier, that is 22nd July, will be treated as your time of supply and GST will be charged at the rate of 18%. That is what is the concept. Now, next scenario. Payment receipt prior to change, but invoice is after change. In that case, time of supply will be the date of issue of invoice. Suppose in that case, rate of change on 25th of July. Okay. And goods supplied on 28th of July. Payment date is 26th of July. Payment date is 26th of July and date of invoice is 31st of July. In that case, date of invoice we are going to take. That means simplified. We can say in case when the goods or services both are supplied after the change in rate of tax, in that case, invoice or payment. If both are in a different scenario, in that case, invoice or payment, whichever is later. But if invoice or payment both are before the change in rate of taxes, in that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier, will be the time of supply and GST should be charged accordingly. Once confirm me that section number 14 of CGST Act, the most important section, the most dangerous section, the most crucial section is okay for you. CGST Act, section number 14 of CGST Act regarding change in rate of tax. You just need to remember these two lines. One line, when there is a change in rate of tax before supply of goods. That means whenever you are going to make the supply of goods or services before the change in rate of tax, in that case, invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. And when you are going to make the supply of goods or services after the change in goods or services, in that case, the invoice or payment whichever is later in different scenario, and if the invoice or payment both are prior to change in rate of tax, in that case invoice or payment whichever is earlier will be the time of supply. And in this notes और जो physical books आप लोग receive करने वाले हो, you will get these lines. That is this is the simplified lines. You just need to refer these lines so that you got the idea regarding the time of supply. Once confirm me in the chat box that this concept is okay for you. I am expecting reply from each and everyone. Sir, I am waiting for your reply. Is that okay? This concept is okay for everyone? So basically, in our today's session, we had started our discussion from the concept of reverse charge mechanism, section number 9, subsection 3. Also, we had discussed general principles about the reverse charge mechanism. Okay. And we had discussed about the list of goods. 7 goods are there. And we had discussed about the list of services. Around 16 services are there on which reverse charge mechanism is applicable. Your advocacy services, your GTA related services, any services to banking company by DSA, direct selling agent, by the business facilitator, by the business correspondent, insurance agent is going to make the supply to insurance company. All these services are covered under the mechanism of reverse charge mechanism. After that, we had started our discussion on the concept of composition scheme. There are two type of schemes are available. One is regular scheme and another is composition scheme. Composition scheme is covered under the section number 10 of CGST Act. This is a concessional rate scheme. In that case, you are not eligible to claim the input tax credit. You just need to make the payment of taxes at a certain concessional rate of taxes, 1%, 5% or 6%. The turnover limit is 50 lakh rupees, 75 lakh rupees for specific 8 states, and for 1.5 crore rupees for other, and 50 lakh rupees is for services. Okay. And if you are going to take this composition levy, in that case you need to file the quarterly return CMP 08 and annual return GSTR 4. If you are ceased to be eligible for that, you need to intimate the same to the departmental authority through GSTN portal within 7 days from the seizing of that scheme. Okay. And after that, we had started our discussion on the interstate and intrastate, section number 7 of IGST Act, section number 8 of IGST Act, section number 9 of IGST Act talks about the territorial water, section number 10 of IGST Act talks about the place of supply in different situations. Whenever there is a movement of goods where the delivery terminates, that will be the place of supply. Build to ship to model we had already discussed, and in case of your continuous supply of service we had already discussed. Okay. So after that, we had started our discussion on the very specific point, that is time of supply. In case of time of supply, we had discussed on 2 points, that is in case of supply of goods, section number 12 and section number 13 will be applicable in case of supply of services. Under goods, under forward charge, under reverse charge, and in case of vouchers, in case of residual cases, in case of any addition on account of interest and late fees, we had also covered the same. After that, we had started our discussion on the section number 14 of CGST Act, that is most important section. Whenever there is a rate change in rate of taxes, okay, in that case there are two situations: when the goods or services supplied before the change in rate of tax, and when the goods or services supplied after the change in rate of tax. These are the concepts we had discussed in our today's session. If anyone has any doubt, any point, any query, you may ask that particular point, question, query in the chat box. I am here to solve your query. If you are not going to discuss the same on live chat, you may comment the same in the WhatsApp group. We'll discuss the same. You may take the time from me. We may discuss over call. There is no issue with that. The purpose of this live course is to clear the concept, is to provide the basic till the advanced level of GST to all of you. Okay, that is what is the basic. That is what is the purpose of this live course. In our tomorrow session, we are going to start our discussion on value of supply. Okay, valuation part where we are going to start our discussion, and also we are going to discuss on the place of supply. That means in our tomorrow session, we are going to cover two more important topic, that is value of supply and the place of supply. And on our next week, in the first session, we are going to discuss on the input tax credit related matters, and in second week, we are going to cover the practical parts of GST. Okay, so if you have any question, if you have any doubt, you may comment in the chat box. I am here to provide the reply. And if there is no any doubt, then you may comment the okay, so that I can sign off for our today's session. We are going to start our tomorrow session sharp at 8 a.m. morning. So just comment me in the chat box. So I suppose there is no query pending. So we'll start our tomorrow session morning sharp at 8 a.m. So I request everyone to please join on time so that we can start on time. Okay. And also one more request from my side. Whatever will be your feedback, whatever will be your suggestions for our today's session, just comment in the WhatsApp group so that those who are not joining the live session, they are also interested to join the live sessions. Okay, and also this is a motivation, this is a reward for me from your side, that you should provide your valuable feedback, you should provide your valuable suggestions for the GST live course for our today's session. Okay, thank you for everyone, and I am waiting for your feedbacks and suggestion in the WhatsApp group. Thank you everyone.